Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Michael Kuzilny, and the show is Tough Times Never Last, but Tough People Do. And I know you're very tough getting through your challenges of life. And you might have seen the show previously over the last few years. It used to be called A Life in Crime, but now, of course, we're bringing in a whole selection of people who are facing some tough times in their lives. And I thank you for very, very much for watching every Wednesday night. God bless you. And thank you for coming up in the street and saying g'day. I love down-to-earth people who just say hello and who say the way it is, you know, rather than being pretentious and making up stories and always saying they're happy. You know, unfortunately, people do go through some tough times. And when we do go through the fire, we've got to remember that no problem lasts forever. You know, I've been interviewing people on this couch for the last 5 years. This lady now is probably one of the most loveliest and authentic people. Her name is Vickie Roach. And what an amazing summary here. 52 years of age, has spent 5 years in a prison system, has been charged for lots of offences. At the age of 2, she was taken away from her home, from her mother. I'll get that story right. Vickie, how are you, sweetie? What a lovely person you are, you know. And there's so much judgmental society out there. They think, oh, you know, she's a criminal. She's spent time in prison. But, you know, every little baby goes in a different direction. And the life circumstances affect what we create, isn't it?
Well, that's right. And when I was actually in prison, you look around and the people that are in there, they're not all just criminals and ratbags and dregs or
no.
whatever. There's all sorts of people there. And you've really, for somebody who's actually not in the system, you've actually got to look at those women and say, they're but for the grace of God.
Yeah, circumstance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been around the system for so long, I represent people, and then I might talk to a few friends. Oh, Michael, criminal defence lawyer, they're funny. But I say to them, look, these are decent people who muck up because of circumstances in their lives. And how did your life start? You know, now, you grew up where?
In Sydney, in the western suburbs in Sydney.
Yeah, and was it a normal family, mum and dad, and everyone's happy? And
well, no, I was taken away from my mother when I was 2.5, and given to foster parents who were actually quite elderly. They had adult children already, 3 daughters, but yeah, I went to them, and that was a fairly average Australian family. We lived in the suburbs, a housing commission house. I went to a public school, all that sort of thing, but I didn't fit in.
Why didn't you fit in?
I don't know. I didn't know then, or like I know now.
Yes.
But I didn't know then. I just felt like I didn't belong. I felt like nobody understood me.
Was there a lot of bullying going on? And I can imagine, you know, I came from Germany when I was only young, and that's right, it's hard to fit in sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you want to rebel?
Well, I wasn't fitting into my own family.
Yeah, so what did you do? You're a young girl.
I left.
That's right, you lived in the streets for quite some time, didn't you?
That's right.
And that's when you started taking the drugs?
Yes.
And I suppose that's when the life of crime started, Vickie?
Yes.
Yeah?
Well, it actually started because, as I say, I ran away from home when I was 13, and you couldn't get social security benefits or anything back then.
No.
So I had to survive from 13 to 18.
13 to 18, God bless you. And you lived in Sydney, Brisbane, King's Cross?
King's Cross, yeah.
And did those crazy people in King's Cross introduce you to the heroin?
No, it was actually a returned soldier from Vietnam.
Oh, you took the smack, did you?
Yeah.
How long for?
30 years, 30 odd years.
So you were a heroin addict for that long?
Yes.
And you're still looking so fit and healthy.
Oh, heroin's very good at preserving it.
Yeah. But isn't it amazing, folks, the drugs, and you can see how certain conditions propel people into the... I mean, as a young child, as a young, innocent, beautiful girl, with parents who left you, and then you've got these foster parents, you're getting stirred at school, you know, something, well, you know, you sort of get influenced, your young mind gets influenced, and then, of course, you got into crime for quite a few years.
Well, that was a case of necessity.
Yeah.
I had to support myself some way, and you know, there are various ways a woman can do that, and I've tried them all, and I had to. I basically had to. And for anybody that says, oh, no, you don't have to, there comes a time in different circumstances where you may not have another choice. It's either knock off that sandwich out of the deli or starve.
Yeah.
Go hungry.
That's right.
Clothes. How do people clothe themselves when they haven't got money?
So what sort of offences did you commit? I mean, because there must have been quite a few, because then we ended up doing quite a long stint in jail. But as a teenager, what sort of crime? Shoplifting, drug trafficking?
Oh, in a small way.
In a small way, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's right. When we're a user, we interchange drugs.
Yeah, in a small way, no more than anybody else who is using would do the same thing.
Yes.
But again, you're on the fringes. You don't belong to the broader society. So, but you actually find you do belong in this other little group, this other group that exists on the fringes, on the margins, and you're accepted in that group. You belong in that group.
Everyone needs a belonging, folks, don't they? We need to belong to somebody, and that's, if people are going to laugh and ridicule you, I suppose we join groups like that as a teenager, a group of people who try to survive life.
That's it. That's it.
You got out of prison 2.5 years ago. You did a stint of...
Not quite 2 years ago.
Not quite 2 years ago.
My parole's up on the 22nd of next month.
Wonderful. And you've turned the corner. 5 years in prison?
Oh, I did 4 this last sentence,
yep.
And but I was out on bail for 13 months before that, and I'd just done nearly 9 months. 9 months,
so
5 out of that 6 years.
Yeah,
I've done in prison.
So half a decade in prison, and some of that in maximum security. What are the offences, Vickie? What sort of offences?
The offence that I went to prison for this last time, this long offence, was actually quite terrible. I had an abusive partner. He wanted to go back to where he come from, and he wanted to get his car registered. So he said, come with me and help me do this burg, and I'll go. Great. And so I did, but I had to drive the car. And the police went to pull us over, and I indicated and went to stop, but he was on parole and had a very long parole. He had about 5 years, so he didn't want to stop and got very upset about it, so I took off.
Yes.
And coppers chased us for miles, and I ended up hitting another car that was stationary at the lights, and both cars burst into flames.
God bless you.
So it was quite horrendous.
Was there people killed?
Nobody was killed, thank God, but...
injured?
Badly injured. All of us were injured, but the bloke in the other car, he got burns on his hands and other places, I think. I didn't know what had happened.
No, but I suppose it was such a combination of the chase, the burg, and then of course other people being involved, that the sentence was quite tough, huh?
Yeah.
Quite tough, and but we'll talk about that time and the prison days after the next break. We'll be back very shortly with Vickie on the couch. And thank you for watching. I'm Michael Kuzilny. Tough times never last, but tough people do. What a lovely lady, Vickie Roach. Amazing prison time. And I can't believe in the break you told me, Vickie, at the age of 17, you got 6 months jail from the Sydney District Court?
Yes.
For administering drugs?
Yes.
6 months?
Admitting that I had used drugs.
And they took you away straight away for 6 months?
Yeah. I got remanded for 2 weeks first, and I thought they were just trying to scare me, you know, putting me in an adult prison and all that sort of thing. No, I went back to court. And
God bless you. You would have had so little support. Most people, folks, they go to court, especially if they've got a bit of dough. bring mum and dad, get the best report for a psychologist and, all these reports, and things are usually worked out. They get a good sentence, but not always. But I suppose little support for you. You were by yourself.
Yeah, I was by myself. And at that stage, I was living in the Cross, so it was, I was just alone. And there weren't a great deal of supports out there for people like me, for young people. Young people these days have got a lot of places they can go to get assistance when they're homeless on the street, that type of thing. I think when I first landed in the Cross, it would have been the early 70s, and I think I was the only kid up there in those days. These days you can walk through there and there's kids all over the shop.
Vickie, you're saying the car chase and then the cars exploded. When you were at the county court and got sentenced, was it a big shocker for you to get that 5-year stint?
Yeah. Well, it was actually 6 years on the top, and I was extremely shocked. I was expecting 2, maybe 3.
In your mind, when you were on the prison van from the county court to which prison did you go to?
Deer Park.
In your mind, you know how we usually think and plan things. What was your plan for the next 6 years? How were you going to approach prison?
I was going to escape.
I think that's what most people think, isn't it? Get a helicopter, get one of your mates to get out. But
I cased the milk truck for about 3 months when I got there.
Did you? And then go to Bali or Vanuatu or something. Huh? Start a fresh life.
Yeah. I was thinking Jamaica, but...
Folks, this prison is so... a lot of people come out and after a few months and say, met some great people in there and we studied and we went to the gym and meditated. But, the real thing is they take your freedom away. I couldn't handle someone taking my freedom away. They
take more than your freedom.
They take your freedom, but then you get it's like the young coppers who've got little life experience and all of a sudden they get a uniform and treat people with disrespect.
Yes.
I'm not saying all coppers. I was there for many years. There's a lot of police with respect, but sometimes you get the wrong ones when they're only 18, 19. They pull people over and they're just too rough. And the same with the prison guards, isn't it? You get a 20-year-old with no life experience.
Well, no life experience and 6 weeks training.
You would have given it to them, though, wouldn't you? You would have been a tough walkover.
Well, not so much that, but I didn't suffer falls, and people that just try to make me do things because they have the authority, not because it's something that needs doing or something that I should be doing, but just because they want to make me do it.
That's right, and we can't make Vickie Roach do anything. But folks, the amazing thing is most people would whinge and complain and cry and get depressed, but rather than escaping, Vickie really turned her life around and studied and did a PhD in prison.
I did my Masters in prison. I started my PhD in there, but I'm still doing that now.
Amazing.
But I did my Masters in there. A few of us did. There were 3 of us.
In what? In
writing, in professional writing.
Isn't it amazing?
3 of us actually graduated. We had a full graduation ceremony at the prison, the first time it's ever been done.
Vickie, it's amazing. I hear this young girl who grew up on the streets, committed lots of crime and got herself locked up. But then I see this other loving and caring person and really wanting to make a difference in life. Greg gave me this and he says completed studies at Swinburne University and halfway through your PhD, but you also work for the Aboriginal Family Violence and Prevention Legal Service.
Yes, that's right. I'm currently working with them at the moment to produce a community resource booklet for Koori women exiting prison. At the moment, there's currently a booklet that goes out to all prisoners, listing different services. But
it's not good enough. It's more designed for the blokes, isn't it?
It's more designed for the blokes because anything for prisons gets decided on the majority, and the majority is men. We've got 260, I think it is, women in the system at the moment.
Is that all? Just 260?
Just 260. But that's not good. That's not good
So
because
it's all the blokes out there getting smucking up. And when I think about it, I've been around the court system for so many years, folks. But yeah, it's the guys who really get involved in the violence and the crime, and not that many women, is there?
women, it's mostly property crime, fraud, and drugs.
And drugs.
And drugs.
And a lot of the time, it's the partners that influence them too, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, you must have met so many ladies there. In which prison did you go to?
Deer Park, Damon Phyllis Frost
Yeah.
Centre.
And did you have
And
any?
I'd just like to say
Yeah, say
hello
hello.
to all the girls out there. Where are
Wherever
they?
you like to look, everywhere.
I'd just like to say hello to all the girls out there. And kia ora e hoa, happy birthday from last week.
I think she's down there.
Oh, she's down there.
What's her name?
Can I say it?
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Tash.
Oh. Now, is there much racism in prison?
There actually is.
What's your background, sweetie? What's yours?
I'm Aboriginal.
Yep.
My people are from South Coast, New South Wales, about 20 k's south of Bateman's Bay.
Okay.
My ancestors are from there. I grew up in Sydney, but I've been down there to have a look.
Have you?
Try and find some trace of my great-grandmother. But all I found is Donnelly Street. So there's a street named after them. Yeah. But racism is alive and well, and prisons are a breeding ground for it, because there are so many ways to judge people in a prison, and people think that they can continue to judge people because they're in prison. But the thing is, we've already been judged.
Yes.
In there. Prison is not the place to put people who commit crime. And all your viewers will be going, yes, it is. That's exactly what prisons are for. But it's not. We shouldn't be putting people who commit crime in prison. We should have big healing lodges.
It's funny you should say that, Vickie. I spoke to a magistrate called Michael King who has introduced meditation into some of the sentencing, and he says reoffending rates dropped 40% and more. And the US too, they've got about 500 prisons where they've got meditation, but very powerful. It makes the mind...
Not in Texas.
Not in Texas. We'll be back very shortly after the next break with Vickie Roach. And welcome back to the show. Hope you're having a lovely Wednesday night, and make sure to spoil yourself and have some fun this week, because we can't always work and pay the bills and go from one stressful situation to another. Have a bit of fun this week, and remember that we don't have to be perfect every single day, because human beings are really imperfect. You get all these perfectionists who get stressed out, see all the psychologists and the counsellors and everything. Look at this lady here. She's committed crime, she's been on drugs, she's worked the streets, but what a good heart, turned her life around. And even in prison, it's amazing you decided that prisoners should be able to vote.
Well, I wasn't aware that we weren't allowed to until a community lawyer by the name of Amanda George came into the prison and told me that the Howard government had changed electoral legislation to ban all sentenced prisoners in the country from voting. And that kind of struck me as really, really wrong.
So what did you do? Rather than having dinner, you took out your books?
Amanda told me that there were some lawyers, the Human Rights Law Resource Centre, and Pilch.
Yeah.
Pilch and Allen's...
So what happened in a nutshell?
Alan's Arthur Robinson, that was him.
You helped challenge that decision?
Yeah.
And?
Well, not on my own, with all those people.
Yeah.
Ron Merkel argued the case in the High Court.
Yeah.
The High Court actually agreed to hear the case quickly so that it would be heard before the election, the famous election where we lost our Liberal government. And, it just 6 months from when we started it, about 6 months from when we started it till it was decided in the High Court in our favour. 4-2 majority.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now,
We only had 6 judges on the bench because I think
Prison,
Michael Kuzilny was retiring.
Vickie, I mean, you made the most of it, but for maybe women out there who are committing crime and thinking, well, prison's not that tough, what's some of the horrible stuff that happens in prison? Tell me about waking up and, getting locked down.
Well, there's nothing nice about prison, and it starts from the moment you get arrested. The cells are the most appalling places on earth. Think Guantanamo Bay and then times it by 10. Guantanamo Bay looked positively clean to me. But the cells are bad. You get to the prison, you're stuck in a tin can on the back of a van, taken to the prison, and as soon as you get there, you have to strip. You have to take all your clothes off and bend over and spread the cheeks of your ass and let somebody have a little look up there and do all those things. And that doesn't just happen once. That can happen every day, if they see fit. But you can be pulled at any time for a random strip search. You can be pulled for a urine test, which means that you have to have a strip search. People have control over everything you do. Every single thing you do. You can't wake up, you can't go to sleep, you can't have what you like to eat, you can't decide what you want to wear. People are telling you what to do and infantilising you, treating you like a little child all day.
And Vickie, you described it so well. It's the last place you want to go back to, isn't it?
Absolutely. Prison is totally disempowering.
Yes.
It deconstructs you.
When was the last time you went on a holiday, a really good holiday with the beach and the openness? A place like Port Douglas, or have you been on a holiday since you've come out?
No.
You should.
Oh, sure, it'd be lovely.
Why don't you jump in the car and just go somewhere? I mean, isn't it... I can imagine somebody who's been to prison and all the prisoners watching. I bet you can't wait until the release day, when you can go to the beach in summer and just look at that beautiful foreshore and the freedom of it all. Because we should really appreciate our freedom, shouldn't we?
Absolutely.
Our freedom to... and the simple things of life. Life's quite beautiful, isn't it?
And really, that is all you are supposed to lose when you go to prison, is your freedom.
Yeah, but you lose a lot more. You
lose so much more. You lose yourself. You lose your sense of self.
What do you do for fun? Now, you're such a happy person now.
What do you do for fun?
You really own yourself, don't you? This lady's really, I'd say, independently owned and operated. Independently owned, and that's the way you should be. You should really own yourself, everybody, rather than always thinking about the opinions of others, Just own yourself, be independently owned and operated. I read that somewhere, but that's the way to be, isn't it?
It is.
If people don't like you, stuff them. If they come to you with love, invite them in. But
well, you don't have that choice in prison. You don't have that choice in prison. You have to behave and do things, not think the way they want you to. They would like to be able to make you think the way they want you to, but they can't. But they try and make your outward behaviour...
We don't want to talk about those power freaks.
No.
I know they're doing a job, but now that you're free and happy again, you've got that beautiful smile back, good group of friends now?
Yes.
Yeah?
Wonderful group of friends.
Because I can imagine you'd fit in. You've seen it all, but of course people come out of prison, people are very judgmental, aren't they?
Well, they can be. Excuse me. They can be, and a lot of times they are. And this is why people who have been to prison tend to gravitate towards each other, because they have that shared experience. Got
that shared experience, yeah.
Yeah, and other people don't
Vickie, you're such a lovely person. We'll have to have you on again because we're running out of time, but God bless you, and I wish you all the best with everything in life.
Thank you very much.
Well done on turning your life around, and thank you very much, viewers, for watching once again. If you've got a story to share which might help others, come on down, email me or phone me, and say good day down the street. But love and best wishes to everybody, and we'll talk to you next week. Good night.